Hello, we're here with yet another one. This one, we're doing the AFC West. We are gonna give them some grades. We are gonna make fun of them. We are gonna talk trash like we have any reason to, or have any hopes of being as good as these teams. But I don't, and it's fine. Um, we'll go ahead get to the nitty gritty. Las Vegas Raiders. Starting off, they grabbed Ashton Genty. I've recorded this twice now, trying to get it completely right. And at this point, I've said what needs to be said for me. Ashton Genty getting picked at number 6, I thought was a little too early. I completely understand why they did it, though, because everybody said there were 3 stars in this draft, which was Hunter, Carter, and Genty. Um, the odds are, if he was not picked at 6, which I think everybody had that prediction as soon as Travis Hunter was picked at number 2 and Graham was picked at number 5, that Genty would go right here. And yeah, I completely understand. I think you could have went a little lower to get him at that point. But at that point, apparently a lot of phone lines were not completely going crazy. So yeah, I like Ashton Genty, but yeah, I think that this was such a deep running back class. It's really hard for me to love it, especially with how he did struggle in the college football playoff, which is unfortunate, but it is just kind of like the last game I got to see from Ashton Genty, so it does make things a little difficult for me. Overall, it definitely is not a bad pick. I think that if he fell too late, Dallas would have probably tried to jump up and get him. So, get your guy, I get it, but that one alone just gives me like a B. Um, and usually it's an A, but again, you get lucky here and there drafting running backs that early. Like I know the Falcons technically did. Um, I would say the Giants did if Saquon didn't just win a Super Bowl in New York, but oh, I don't want to hate on the guy because I do like him, but and especially because I saw his like thing as he was walking down the aisle, and he was just so short. I respect it. Short king powers. I understand it. And I definitely hope for a success. Just definitely, I definitely think you could have maybe grabbed receiver or something here, but I don't think you're mad. I don't think you're mad at all. Jack Beck, wide receiver in TCU. Ironically enough, before I even recorded this, I just watched his interaction with John Spytek, the GM, and Pete Carroll, the head coach. And bro, that guy just looked so excited to be there, and I freaking love to see that. Um, yeah, that's absolutely awesome to me. And he's big, he's physical. So you know, I just complained about them not grabbing a wide receiver here. I gotta take it back. Jack Beck looks like he's gonna be a really good pick. I really do like how he plays football. So yeah, I really like Jack Beck here. I think I love that pick. In fact. Okay, next pick was Darian Porter, cornerback, Iowa State. I really like this pick a lot. Iowa State, unfortunately, was a team that just was kind of middle of the road. They were solid in the Big 12. Kind of fell off a little bit late as I forgot who it was. I know Colorado was making a late push, and I believe it was Arizona State with Cam Scadaboo was was coming in late. And Darian Porter is an absolutely really solid cornerback, and I think that I like him here in round 3 for sure. I think he could have went maybe a little bit later, but if you know him, if you know you like him, you just kind of lock in on it. And you grab him, and I completely get that. Okay, I'm gonna put these two together. Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant. Um, they're completely different. I think Caleb Rogers does a lot of different things on the offensive line. I think that's why they haven't rated as that. I think he can pretty much do tackle or guard and do it fairly well. Grant is mostly a tackle. He played at William and Mary, so he's definitely not a guy that I'm going to have a lot of knowledge of. But at the same time, I think you're super happy to get that guy in your football team because if you're drafting a guy from William and Mary, you're pretty confident in him. I know Cody Mock a few years ago was drafted at North Dakota State, and he's turned out to be pretty solid over there. So yeah, either way, getting protection, especially for a guy like Geno Smith, is going to be so important. I mean, you start your draft off by drafting a running back, and then you just go down there and you get guys that are hopefully going to road great in front of them. I completely understand that strategy, and I really like it. Next up, they grabbed Dante Thornton, wide receiver out of Tennessee. As a Vols fan, I love the pick. Dante Thornton has been pretty crazy. The issue is that Nico, um, they stopped being a passing team with Nico. The running game was really solid. So unfortunately, with like Dante Thornton and even Squirrel White, you didn't get to see like a humongous amount of passes. But I really like what Dante Thornton brings to the table. He's super quick, runs super good routes. I really like this pick for them. Um, and yeah, there is a tiny bit of bias that comes along with that, but at the same time, I think that he's going to be a really big threat for them because their wide receiver room is kind of just mediocre right now. So going back on my complaint for the Ashton Genty pick, right now they're kind of making me eat my words. So and that's what I'm looking for here. Tonka Hemingway, D tackle, South Carolina. Boy, that's a space eater. Um, and JJ Pegs is next. Man, they got some absolutely crazy strong dudes right there. Whew. Yeah, no, I'm liking that. um, the thing with the Raiders is they have a brand new head coach. They have a brand new GM. Technically, have a new owner with Tom Brady's team kind of coming in there. So this whole thing is going to have to be rebuilt. Uh, you have, I think, was it Wilkins? Is that his last name? It might, I think so. From Miami, he came over. So getting a D tackle, I think I have questions with, but I see that it's in round four. So overall, you're probably not expecting these two guys. I'm gonna put pegs here in the situation. To start right away, you're probably looking at them as depth pieces, and if you want to run like a 4-3 kind of thing, which who would never be a bad idea when you have a guy like Max Crosby. I kind of get what they're doing here. And I like JJ Pigs a lot. He's a really big, good space eater. I think he's going to be an absolute menace. But yeah, there's no honestly still not a bad pick for them. Still not a bad pick. Yeah, especially because I see JJ Pigs was round six. That is freaking insane to me. Okay, we'll scroll back up here for a second. Tommy Malott, wide receiver out of Montana State. I will be honest with you, I do not know much about him. I'm not gonna know much about Cam Miller either. I did watch Cam Miller play actually. He played against Colorado and he looked really good. But a sixth round quarterback, probably not really expected to be starting anytime soon. But they really did need to get a quarterback because their room has just been kind of mediocre for a little while. So you had to go in there and get some guys. Montana State. I know that Montana State has played some pretty good football this year, in the D2 realm. So um, he might end up being one of those guys that you just did not hear of and just goes absolutely crazy. Cody Lindenberg from Minnesota. I'm not very aware of his, just to be honest with you. I don't think you could ever go wrong getting a linebacker though, especially late. And it was kind of like when I watched Pat McAfee yesterday when he said, ironically, well, the thing is, if you're talking, hey, these guys are going around six, who cares how they play defense? They're probably going to be playing special teams. And Lindenberg is not built quite like a JJ Peg, so he is probably going to be doing that. Um, and who knows? If you do a really good job of special teams, you could see some reps on the field. You could see all these other things. We don't know until things happen. And overall, for this Raiders draft, I've been kind of critiquing here and there. I really do kind of like this though a lot. I'm gonna go with an A minus. I'm gonna go with an A minus, and the only reason is I would have liked to have seen them address the secondary just a tiny bit. They were kind of lacking over there, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. I think it's fine. I really liked it as I looked along. So yeah, just an A minus for me. But I think it's a super pretty nice draft for the Raiders. Alrighty, we are on to the Denver Broncos, who have just kind of came out of nowhere to make themselves into a playoff contender. As a matter of fact, they were in the playoffs last year. Kind of got beat up by the Bills, but I think you're pretty happy with that with a rookie quarterback getting yourself in there. Um, yeah, no, not bad at all. Not bad at all for them. But on the way up, and let's see how we're drafting, huh? Okay, so they went with Jade Barron, corner out of Texas. I'm not gonna complain about this whatsoever. I think they have more pressing needs. I really do, but I don't think you're going wrong getting Jade Barron. Um, and the reason is because I don't think that the fans are very high on what the second corner was doing over there, and I can completely understand that. With how well their defense played, getting a player like Jade Barron is honestly a really, really good get for them. You put him on the other side of Patrick Surtain because that's why you draft him round one, right? And your secondary is hopefully sealed up, especially if your safeties are doing their job really well. You're hoping your D lineman can get to the quarterback, but you're pretty confident in these lockdown corners, and I think that's the message that they kind of tried to tell right here at pick number 20. Um, and there's not a lot of bad things to say about Jade Barron. I think he's played very good football. Definitely played in the SEC this year, and they won a lot of football games. So the guy knows what he's doing on the field, and yeah, no, that's not bad at all. Okay, so the next pick was R.J. Harvey. Um, I think there were better running backs at this point. That's my only complaint, but I'm going to assume that Sean Payton, this was the guy he wanted. So I'm not going to completely hate on it, but I am going to stick with what I said that I think there were better running backs at this point. I do like RJ Harvey though. I think he's a fun player to watch, and I think that he will do just fine. I don't know if he's your starting runner. I would assume he's probably up there. And that's the reason why I think I'm critiquing just a tiny bit. I think if you could have got a guy like Dylan Sampson right there, I would have been even happier. But RJ Harvey hopefully shuts me up because that's literally my only complaint is I think that you could have got somebody that I viewed a little bit higher on that one. Next up, Pat Bryant from Illinois. I'm very aware of Pat Bryant because Illinois was honestly playing really, really good football for a little while. Um, I love that pick. I do. Because and another issue that Denver had last year is the receiving core was just kind of inconsistent. And unfortunately, Cortland Sutton's gonna get up there. You had Franklin last year. You have a lot of these other wide receivers. You have to try to find a guy that can maybe fill Cortland Sutton's role because he is getting gonna get older. I don't think he's completely like washed yet, but he's gonna get older. So I think you got a little bit of time before you have to try to make a move on that one. And yeah, I think that that's part of your thought right there. Okay, let's see. Perfect. That looks like that's gonna be it. So Savion Jones, edge at LSU. Yeah. No complaints here. I like the pick. I think I think that their one strong suit was their defense. Their offense was pretty solid. I thought Bo Nix played really good for what he had to work with. But that being said, their defense was honestly absolutely insane, which is crazy to say for a team that got 70 dropped on them 2 years ago. Savion Jones, I think you might see him in a starting role, especially there. I think that he's a guy that can honestly double as linebacker here and there. And after losing Cody Barton, that's honestly a really good pickup for them. I like Savion Jones right here in round 3 for them. Um, but to be completely honest with you, round number 4, I like Q Robinson even more. And I'm gonna have that same criticism with a couple teams is that I thought that they picked high on certain players and low on the other ones. Q Robinson I thought was super low, but I guess I haven't seen Alabama football that well, and maybe that's part of the issue. But I really liked Q Robinson. But either way, here, like we're talking Savion Jones and we're talking Q Robinson, I don't think you're going wrong with either of these guys. Absolutely, I don't think you're going wrong with either of these guys. I don't know if they start right away, but I think that's more of a question for training camp. I don't think you're mad with either of these picks. In fact, I'm pretty happy to see them get those. I don't think there's anything right off the top of my head that I want to see. I would rather saw them get, so there's not gonna be like points taken off for that for me. Jeremy Crawshaw, punter out of Florida. I'm not gonna say a lot because it's a punter. If you need a punter, go draft you a punter. I get it. So nothing for me on that one. Caleb Laundrie's a tight end out of Utah. More than likely going to be used as like a long snapper in the NFL if that's especially as a round 7 pick. But hey, maybe but he could shut me up. Like let's not forget this part. He could shut me up and go make his move and go become the next superstar. And who knows? I didn't cut into this too much because, truthfully, these teams don't need a lot. That's why they're in the playoffs, right? Um, Now Denver did lose a few players. I did kind of like seeing that they were trying to make some replacements and moves like that. Um, I'm gonna stick with the B. Um, and the reason is I just thought they drafted a little backwards. As much as I like Jahdae Barron, because he is a really good pick, thought there were more pressing needs, but I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. It's just a B. Nothing bad with that. Alrighty, we are on to the Chargers. This is where I'm gonna be a little bit happier because I really like what the Chargers did in this draft. I don't care what people tell you. They started off with Omari Hampton. Yes, they need a running back. You need a two-headed monster. Najee Harris has unfortunately proved to have some injury concerns. He's also proved that having another back with him, he is super dominant having some help with him. Jalen Warren and him were absolutely insane together. And that's why I really like the Omari and Hampton pick. Um, you could have went O line here, and that wouldn't have made me mad whatsoever. But getting Omari and Hampton is a super good move for them, and they definitely needed some help there, especially with Dobbins kind of walking. You get yourself Omari and Hampton, a guy that's hopefully going to be your future if Najee does not pan out. Um, my own, and again, I just said it. My complaint would have been getting an offensive tackle, and Omari and Hampton, I think, is still a pretty solid pick here because at that moment in the draft, I kind of get it. There were not really a lot of tackles to reach for. Um, so if I'm gonna give it to like, it's not bad. It's not bad, especially at 22. Especially at 22, I think you're able to make a little bit more leeway picking in the 20 to 32 area. Okay, Trey Harris, wide receiver, Mississippi. At this point in the draft, a lot of the really big standout wide receivers left. I think you're super happy getting Trey Harris here, man. That's why I'm not gonna hate on this whatsoever. They needed wideout help. Lad McConkey was the only person that could catch anything. So getting Trey Harris here, that's a super good pickup for them. I really think the Chargers really need to look into that more direction. I don't. It looks like they got a tight end later on. I think I would have liked them to get one a little earlier. But yeah, I don't think getting Trey Harris is such a bad idea whatsoever. The next pick, he is from Oregon, D tackle Jamari Caldwell. Yeah, I completely get this one because they have to start getting to the quarterback. They really do. And having a guy that could be a space eater, maybe having to attract a couple doubles with Caldwell would be the way to do that. You're in a division where you're now going to have Geno Smith throwing the ball, you're going to have Bo Nix throwing the ball, you're going to have Pat Mahomes throwing the ball. I get why they had to make this move. And that low key, that's why I kind of understood why the Broncos did it. If they had more, if they didn't have pressing needs right off the top of my head, I wouldn't have been as upset about this. Um, and ironically enough, if they would have got Omari and Hampton for at 20, I probably would have gave them an A minus. So yeah, I get why the Chargers are doing it. They're trying to prove that they're a big, physical, dominant team. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Next up, Kyle Kennard, edge out of South Carolina. Again, they need to start getting to the quarterback. I know it's a late round selection, but if anybody's going to be able to get the most out of his players, it's going to be Jim Harbaugh. The amount of dominant defensive players that have started to come out of Michigan has been absolutely crazy. So hopefully he can do the same thing for Kyle Kennard here for South Carolina. I don't, and there's nothing wrong here. I honestly think he could have went earlier. So I really like the pick for the Chargers. I don't. Yeah, that's really about all I got for you on that one. I think the guy's an animal. Okay, Keandre Lambert Smith for wide receiver at Auburn. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Auburn guy. I think he's a fine player. Um, and he's probably not going to be a guy that sees a lot of time year one, but getting him in round five, I think you're happy with. It becomes extremely hard to get these receivers in the fifth and sixth and seventh round, judging by a guy that has watched a few teams draft those five, six, and seven guys, and they just don't pan out, or they fumble kick returns, or they fumble punt returns. Like those are the biggest issues there. But when you get later in the draft, the margin for error becomes a lot better. And there's going to be no complaints getting a Lambert Smith here. Rondé Gadsden to the second. I said two, but um, tight end Syracuse. I don't. They need tight end help. They really do. So that's why I'm not gonna complain whatsoever about this. Um, I honestly think he could be good enough to beat out Will Disley if that's the guy that he's starting against. So I don't. There's not gonna be a lot from me to disrespect on him for. Um, I think it's a pretty solid pick in round five. I honestly do. His quarterback, I believe, gets taken pretty quickly after this, or maybe even before this. But yeah, super. Not underwhelming. I think it's just fine. Just fine. Branson Taylor, guard out of Pittsburgh. You know, picked in round six. So unfortunately, probably not a guy that's going to see like a majority of playing time right away, unless he just absolutely dominates in camp. So it's fine. It's a fine pick. I don't think you're complaining whatsoever. I don't think you're angry whatsoever. I like it. R.J. Mickens, safety out of Clemson. Honestly, I did see a lot of good things about him from watching Clemson football. Um, but yeah, again, these picks are too late. That's why I'm not gonna really keep going into the Bridges or Mickens thing because you're getting picked that late. There's a very good likelihood it's because they don't view you as a starter right away. You're probably gonna be in special teams and stuff like that. Overall, Chargers for me, being as harsh as I am, I'm gonna give them a B plus. Yeah, I'm gonna give them a B plus and stick with it. Alrighty, it is time to get to the runners up of last season with the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, let's get started on Josh Simmons. If he's healthy, he's the best tackle in this draft, more than likely. Um, Seeing what I saw, I could definitely see him being the best tackle in this draft if he's healthy. In that case, um, yeah, no, they absolutely destroyed it with this. I think that they got something out of the Eagles, probably like a fifth round, something like that. It was a little small little trade, but yeah, no complaints on the Josh Simmons pick. Josh Simmons was an offensive tackle for the team that won the national championship, and if you don't believe these things built in the trenches anymore, you should just watch the Eagles choose Super Bowl. Okay, they get on Omar Norman Lott. This one hurt me on the inside because yeah, I wanted to see him in the Titans blue, but understood that he probably shouldn't be. So yeah, Omar Norman Lott, really good pick for the Chiefs. Because you're kind of replacing the guy that stood alongside Chris Jones. Yeah, he ended up going to the Panthers. I honestly forgot his name off the top of my head. You're just kind of filling that role right away, and Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this pick. It's a super good pick, and yeah, big big fan of it. Ashton Galate, edge from Louisville. I like this pick too. I really do. A little bit of edge rush help doesn't hurt them whatsoever. The fact of the matter is that this guy's a backup. Their edges are absolutely insane. Their defense is absolutely insane. Being able to get a guy like Ashton Galati here, round three, really good pickup. Really good pickup. I no complaints, no issues, nothing like that on that one. Noah Williams, cornerback, California. Okay, I was surprised he was picked this early, but then as I watched the tape, I understood it. Noah Williams is really good. Um, yeah, that guy goes out there and he plays some football, and I don't love that Spagnuolo gets him. I really don't. I think that he's going to be really good for them. Um, they are really good in the secondary as it is, so just getting this kind of helps solidify it even more. Yeah, no complaints for me on this one. Jalen Royals, wide receiver at Utah State. Chiefs have been doing really well at making something out of nothing with the wide receivers. Um, if there was a tiny bit so far that I'd be complaining about, is you don't know what's going to happen at your receiver position right now. Um, Xavier Worthy, obviously, he had some issues at home that apparently got resolved. So I'm super happy to hear that for him. But Rasheed Rice, I would assume, is going to face some kind of suspension. I don't know. Uh, hopefully not for them. Um, yeah, no, I like the Jalen Royals pick for them mostly because they just seem to be able to turn something into nothing out of everything, and I'm very jealous about it. Jeffrey Bass, a linebacker out of Oregon. Again, a team that's really rich on defense, just gets even more defensive players. Probably got us playing special teams, but if you watch the Chiefs last year, special teams was a big part of their game, and getting somebody like that, really nice for them. Brashard Smith, now that is a thing. We just talked about special teams. I think that he's going to be really good at that. I really liked his work at SMU. SMU was a surprise team last year, and they kind of ended up getting things done. So, yeah, I like this one a lot. I really do. And I'm sorry about the yawn. We're just working, you know. Um, but yeah, no, nothing really offensive here for the Chiefs. They addressed the offensive line. I'm gonna give them an A minus. Actually, I think I'm gonna have to give them I think I'm gonna have to give them an A minus. Yeah. Being as harsh as I can here. Because I don't want any team to really get an A plus. If I'm being completely honest with you, I think that every team had some holes to fill, and everybody just kind of overrates these draft grades a little bit. I think that they're an A minus, though. I think that they addressed a lot of the issues they had while just kind of bulking up of positions they needed to bulk up on. Yeah, I think if I'm giving the Raiders an A minus, I'm gonna have to give them an A minus as well, um, because I feel similarly about the drafts. But that is going to be it for the AFC West. We are working our way towards the we're going to be doing the North next. Yeah, we're going to go to the NFC North and the AFC North and the NFC South and the AFC South. We're going to work our way there. Which means in a couple videos we'll get to talk about somebody really that has perfect timing. Pretty cool. Either way, I do appreciate anybody who did take a chance to stop by and you know, take a look at this video. I do appreciate you so very much. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me at Twitch. That description is going to be down below. I got to get back on streaming here and there, but yeah, either way. That being said, that's it for today. I do appreciate you again so much. Have a good day.